Welcome back to another episode of Real Chumps. We're chatting about movies feels like hanging out with friends. I'm your host, Marcel, and with me as always is my co-host, Danny.
This week we are discussing the 2019 film Blinded by the Light, directed by Gurinder Chadha and written by Sarfraz Manzoor, Gurinder Chadha, and Paul Mayeda Burgess, starring Vivek Kalrand, Kit Reeve, David Heyman, Haley Atwell, this guy, Kulvinder Gear. Why would you do this?
I was going to continue to add everyone in there.
Haley Atwell? Is that really for... That's not for reals.
Haley Atwell?
Yeah.
She was in the movie.
What?
She was a teacher.
Oh my gosh. She is the teacher.
Really?
You're right. And she's fantastic.
Yeah.
She is a Haley Atwell. I didn't even I was so enamored by all the other stuff happening in the film that literally it didn't even hit me.
I mean, she's barely in it, right? But yeah, she's the teacher.
Yeah, but she's a huge...
She
barely in it.
Barely in it, but very impactful scenes that she's in.
To anyone who's listening, who's from India, I'm so sorry I butchered every single one of those names.
We will do our best to pronounce as best as we can. But
yes. But I was trying.
Yeah, you tried. That's A for effort. A for effort.
Should give me participation points.
Before we jump in, though, as a reminder to our listeners and viewers, we just be sure you're subscribing wherever you get your podcast. Turn on those notifications so that way you never miss an episode. And if you're watching on YouTube or not, make sure you have them on YouTube because we always have additional content coming out there.
To join the conversation, follow us on social media at Real Chums. And if you, at the end of the episode you enjoyed it, we'd love to hear what you thought about it by leaving a review. It really does help us get discovered and, also gives us better feedback so we can be better.
Here's a question for you. Are you you're not a Bruce Springsteen, big aficionado, are you?
No. The Boss did not make it into my home, but you better believe I'm probably going to put some Bruce on a little bit more on now. Okay. But I mean, we listened to it.
We listened to it on our drive.
Yep.
To
go see Oppenheimer 70mm.
Yeah. I guess my question of the day was going to be, what's your favorite Bruce Springsteen song?
Probably the
Born to Run?
Born to Run.
Yeah, that's fine.
It's just
I know it's kind of cliche, but no, I love it. It's a great song.
It's a great song. Yeah.
It really is.
It really is a great song. Maybe when we do a recap, when we get to 1,000 episodes.
Okay.
We'll highlight things and we'll talk about stuff. But anyways.
1,000 episodes thing. Listeners, if you're on Spotify, scroll down to the bottom. Let us know. What's your favorite Bruce Springsteen song? And if you're listening anywhere else or on YouTube, comment below. Let us know.
We're going to start this discussion by talking a little bit about Blinded by Light. It's about an immigrant family, an Indian or Pakistani immigrant family who's gone to Luton, England, who are trying to live their life, and their son then gets introduced to, who is a writer, gets introduced to Bruce, and kind of finds his
voice,
his backbone. How it's
okay, yeah,
his backbone through Bruce and his songs lyrics, and tries to break the mold that his father is trying to put him in.
Yeah, perfect.
That's the movie.
1987 Luton.
Yeah, 1987 Luton. Boy, is it 1987.
Boy. Yeah, it is. You had never seen this, had you?
I had never seen this movie.
Uh-huh.
I distinctly remember the posters for it and thinking I think I did try to go see it at one point, but something happened, or I'm not exactly sure. I distinctly remember a lot of the posters and things from that because I think it came out in
2019.
2019.
It premiered at Sundance.
Yeah.
And then I don't remember who's the distributor that bought it, but it was a Sundance movie. And it was getting or Warner Brothers. That's right. Yeah. And it was getting a lot of buzz around Sundance, I remember, and reading a lot about it. People were really enjoying it and really talking great stuff about it, but Yeah.
And then a pandemic hit, or
Then the pandemic hit and
was that
2020.
yeah,
Yeah. So
right. I mean, Sundance is. Anyways, I can't remember.
sometimes February ish of every year. And then, but then by the time it was bought and released, I think it wasn't released until like July. So it was like the second half of 2019 when it made it to theaters everywhere.
Theaters. So yeah.
Yeah.
I remember, like I said, I remember some of the stuff, and it was like, oh, that looks like a pretty sweet movie. I didn't really like. I never saw that. I didn't see the trailer. Had no real like perspective until you brought it up when we were on our road trip to go see Oppenheimer in 70 millimeter.
And you're also, I guess we talked about this. The Boss never made it into your home. Are you like a classic rock kind of guy?
Yeah. I mean, I love.
You listen to anything?
I listen to anything. I mean, I had a huge Van Halen. Me and my homies.
Okay.
We loved Van Halen.
Yeah.
We listened to them. I listened to a lot of Rush. Once Rock Band came out, and dude, right?
Man was
And so playing Tom Sawyer and like that song. So I wanted to hear more of Rush. Also, I really loved the bass guitar. So like they have such great riffs. And so I don't know. I listened to quite a bit of stuff, and I appreciate media like in movies like this because it reintroduces us into some of these iconic movies, music and artists that passed us by, right? Like it could be whether that be a specific song to help that for a moment in a movie, or maybe in like some other medium. Like a podcast or whatever. To me, I appreciate it because then I can go back and like feel someone else's connection or find someone else's passion for it, learn from it, want to hear more, and want to discover it myself. When I was in Memphis, and I did a whole video, like a report on not Elvis Presley, but Johnny Cash's Boyhood Home.
Okay.
Went and did a whole piece on that, and like learned a lot about that, and like got to talk to a lot of individuals who love Johnny Cash.
Yeah.
Right. So I ended up listening to a lot of Johnny Cash.
Right.
And in fact, I like a lot of his older stuff as he got older.
Oh, his more recent stuff. Okay, cool.
So most recent.
Yeah.
Not His older. Him being older.
Him being older.
Most recent.
Most recent.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyways.
Okay, cool. So I saw this.
Did you see it in theaters?
I did not see this in theaters. I remember seeing like the trailers for it. Like I said, I heard a lot of buzz around it from Sundance. And then it wasn't until like I said, later in the year, it was on, I took a flight for work. And it was like there on the screen on a Delta flight. And I was like, I've been wanting to watch this. Should I watch it here? I had just like finished like a season of The Office on that little screen. And so I was like, sure, I'll watch it. So then I put it on. I watched it on the flight. Loved it. Okay. Except I didn't like, I think I had like 5 minutes left when I landed and had to turn it off. And then immediately after, like as soon as I got out, I'm like, why don't I listen to more Bruce Springsteen? And then I just got on Spotify. I'm like, let's put on some Bruce. And it was like it was a work trip in Texas. I think it was Dallas. And so like the rest of my time, I was just like listening to the Boss.
To the Boss.
And I was like, this is great. Like I know Bruce Springsteen. I know of the songs.
Yeah.
But like never really sat down and like, let's just listen to only Bruce. And that was like my first time. And then on my flight back, I finished those last 5 minutes. I was like, oh yeah, this is so good.
It is so good.
It is a great movie.
It's a phenomenal movie, and I'm so excited that we're gonna do it because I know you've been dying to talk about this with somebody. And listen, people usually go like, honestly, I'm okay if you stop this podcast right now, go watch this movie, and then come back because it's that good.
It's. Okay, I'm gonna preface my conversation about this movie with this. This is just an all around feel good movie.
Yeah.
Okay. It is you leave like just happy.
Yes.
Like you feel fulfilled. you feel like the world is a better place after watching this movie. It is over the top cliche, okay? In my opinion.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
We'll talk about it. It's super cliche, but I'm okay with it because everything else just hits perfectly.
What genre would you classify this movie as?
A drama comedy.
Okay.
Comedy drama.
A coming of age drama?
Yeah, a coming of age
Comedy?
comedy drama.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm putting it.
Well, let's talk about this coming of age. Let's talk about our main character, Javed. So Javed, he's a British-Pakistani, like you mentioned, and his family, they live in Luton. And I want to talk about Javed, obviously, because this is his journey of finding, you said, a backbone, finding his voice, finding his personality in 1987, Luton, England. And just the journey that he takes, right? This is a coming of age in the sense that he's finishing what we in America would consider high school and getting ready to go to university.
Yeah.
And he's still like, I love how the movie puts so much emphasis on like, he's never had a girlfriend. He's never kissed a girl. The contrast between him and his best friend, right? Who has by now like finished school. He didn't continue schooling and he's just out partying and
helps his dad on the weekend sell clothes and 100%. Just this weird. I think what I thought was actually pretty intriguing about this is that like it wasn't based in America, which again I really appreciated because it gave me a glimpse to like not a different culture for like this aged kids, like and just like the dynamic of like schooling, a little bit of like how they look at it.
Sure.
I don't remember everything about economics in high school. And maybe that's just because like a difference of like cultural background. They're Pakistani and they're like, no, I mean, I know some parents are like, no, you should become an accountant. Like my dad was an accountant or my mom was a teacher, blah, blah, blah. But I don't remember economics class in high school. Did you have an economics class in high school?
We did. I never took it.
Maybe I'm just oblivious.
I mean, obviously in college, I took one,
of course.
But I don't think I took one in high school, though.
I'm like, that would have been beneficial.
You do know the story of this, right? Like how it's inspired on a true story.
By the writer, Sarfraz Mansour.
Yeah.
He's actually he's still a journalist today.
Yeah. I think he writes for the New York Times. No,
he does a columnist for something, and then he writes for not Guardian, but like some other some other British publication.
I love that they kept it. Obviously, I mean it's inspired. I was listening to a director, I was listening to an interview from the director Gurinder, and she was talking about like the many liberties they had to take, right, to create more of a drama for the story, for the sake of the story.
Yeah.
But this idea that the movie has the backdrop of 1987 England, you have the big presence of the National Front, right? This extreme right neo-Nazi group that was making a big presence in the UK and just the treatment of Pakistanis and anyone that was not white, right? And that also shapes him, Javed's character, into who he's going to become. So he's this kid who just has no voice. There's a point in the movie where he says, "In my home,
the only voice that matters."
My dad is the only one that's allowed to have an opinion or something like that, right?
Yeah.
And so he has no voice. He carries that over into school. He's unsure of himself. There's this backdrop of hate towards Pakistanis in England, and this almost like unsure identity, right? Of who am I? To the point where at one point, like his dad keeps reminding him, "You're Pakistani." He's like, "No, I'm British. I was born here."
Yeah.
Right? And this constant like clash of identity. I want to talk about that because like I think obviously as an immigrant myself, like this is what like this movie resonates with me from that aspect. Not that I'm Pakistani, but like there's a common story among all immigrants. And at some point, it's about identity. It's about this cultural gap. It's about opportunities or lack of opportunities, right? And these are just common themes among all immigrants that really tie this movie together.
I couldn't agree more. I felt, although I didn't immigrate directly from Mexico, my parents did. Mm-hmm. I was very much like Jay.
You're very much like Jay, yeah.
Where I was born here in the States, but I had two parents who were very, Mexican, but had, different personalities. And I love that this movie really does a phenomenal job at like highlighting the two things that kind of can play out in a home for not only the youth, but for parents.
Yeah.
And like they did a phenomenal job in the sense of feeling of like this idea of like in some immigrant homes, it is very much like you don't get opinions. I came here for this, and so you're going to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
In others, it's like there's not a presence because they're consumed by work to provide the benefits, right? And so and then due to circumstances or the environment that they're in, some immigrant children, or just individuals, look at their life, they don't see any sort of hope.
Yeah.
And maybe that's no hope for like their dreams. Maybe that's no hope for like actual success of like, moving forward in life. Mm-hmm. Then there's the situation where like both situations find opportunities. Some situations where like the kid goes on, but then never speaks to their parents again because they have a conflict, and like that conflict then they don't get to. They feel so hurt that they don't ever have it. And I felt like this movie did a really good job of depicting some of those things, really well.
Yeah. I also like the dad is played by Gurinder Chadha. What a great performance from the dad.
Phenomenal performance.
And it's great because like, yes, we're following Javed's journey, right?
Right.
But the movie gives us moments where we are seeing the dad. Whether, cultural differences, age gap, different era, different time, right? It's very much a very patriarchal environment. There are times even like where everyone works, and the dad comes home from work and he just extends his hand out, like, whatever you made, give it to me because I manage the finances.
Yeah.
Right?
That was brutal.
It was very brutal. And I remember the first time, like, I was watching, I'm like, freaking the dad, man. Like,
go ahead.
But the movie gives me moments where I feel and I'm in pain with that because he loses his job, right? And there are times where like he's coming to the realization that his wife is working, that the kids are working, right? And that he constantly is talking about they immigrated to this country so that way they could have a better life. And he's now questioning what better life have I provided?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I love that isn't just, one-sided. There's some dimension and depth that they give to the dad's character for us to kind of feel and not necessarily like take his side, but not villainize him either.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect way of saying that because like I was worried at a point feeling like, oh, are they gonna like have Jay want to be like upset at his dad? Like, is there gonna come a breaking point, or is he just gonna continue to like dig his heels in and stuff? And I felt that a lot of the character arcs in this film were really done really well. And that they were done in, like, kudos to the writers. Like, I felt like overall the whole, obviously it's based off Manzoor's life, but the fact that they sat down and said, okay, let's make this into something that will tell a story that gets the idea across, not just trying to be him being okay with understanding, okay, what's going to help with this situation, right?
Yeah.
But pay respect to my family and to my life.
I like that you said that. So, Gurinder, she did an interview for the Directors Guild, and she said that she's like, yeah, the book came out, and it's a really fascinating story of how this movie came to be. Like, we'll leave a link. We'll leave the show notes. Yeah. But like in this 45-minute long interview, she only got asked like 2 questions because it was like, how did this movie come out to be? And like that took like 30 minutes of a story. Long story short, though, but that's something that she pointed out. She's like, we have to take this story and honor Mansoor's memoir that he wrote, but also take into consideration that these are real individuals that experience these things, and obviously not over dramatize certain elements, but make sure we're telling a cohesive story that we honor both culture and the opportunity to welcome in a new culture. And so I think you said it perfectly. I think they do a great job. And Gurinder wrote the screenplay with her husband, Paul. And so like, it's a great story.
Yeah. What are some of the things, I mean, we're talking about Javed and his family. To give it a little better context, Javed's dad worked at like some GM plant, right? That was probably provided a lot of the jobs in the area. There's tensions with like you said, some political parties, with neo-Nazism, with immigrants in like being a small town, that whole aspect.
You have the backdrop of Thatcher,
yep,
and Reaganomics.
Yep. All the stuff that that kind of we hear about like how it impacted here in the U.S. Love that I got to hear a little bit more about what across the pond. I think that also his mom works as like a seamstress, for some, I don't know, maybe some other business owner that needs additional help done. So she takes it to Javed's mom. Then he's got 2 sisters. Both of them are older. Oh, sorry. One older, one younger.
I think they're both older. Although one of them, the oldest, is a cousin.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So one sister, then a cousin. Anyways, so with everything, I felt like sometimes when you have these like, based on true stories and you have like a family dynamic, you have to like balance, like there's a weird balance of like what you do, including like you might introduce them early and then you don't have anything else for the rest of the film or like weird stuff. I felt like they did a really good job. I think actually Javed and his sister's dynamic particularly was a fun one. To me, I felt like the moments we did have with his sister felt genuine. Like they felt like they were written that helped progress Jay's like personal arc and his growth, coming into his finding his voice and his personality and his backbone for himself.
Yeah.
In a pivotal moment in the film that I felt was like
the daytimer.
Yeah, the daytimer.
I love that it's called a daytimer.
Me too. I thought I was like,
this is a whole other like, what am I looking like? It's just a whole other culture, not culture, but like
The way I think I thought about the date, so daytimers, like apparently all these Pakistani and other Asian culture or individuals who go to like private schools or whatever, they skip out to go to a daytime club,
a daytime club. Yeah.
to have fun and connect and to mingle, because otherwise they won't be able to do it, because as we know earlier in the film, like his best friends like come over to the party and he says like, you're not going.
Yeah. Yeah.
His parents, his dad particularly controls everything. And so like they do this date. We find out later that they do
a daytimer.
A daytimer.
And it's a real thing.
It is a real thing. Yeah. And I think it's just one of those interesting that like these things happen so that those individuals can find their own selves. Because like you find yourself doing things and going out and interacting with people and, finding out if you like to dance or what music you like to do. All these sorts of things that really was awesome. It was beautiful. And I don't know. I just thought it was a very nice.
I love that you bring it up, because I think the first time I watched this, so this is, I think the second time, that's my favorite scene in the movie.
Yeah.
It 100% is, and I'll talk about it why. But like the first time I watched it, I think my favorite scene was when he listens to Bruce for the first time, right? And he goes outside and there's a storm and the projector, which we're gonna get to that in a second.
Beautiful, yeah,
it's a beautiful scene. But anyway, second time around, the daytimer is 100% my favorite scene for these reasons. Because before this, we see the interactions that Jay has with his sister and his cousin. They're very minimal, and not because and on purpose, right? It's not that they had all these scenes and they cut them out. No, that is the relationship that they have, to the point where at one point he tells Shaisa, his sister, like, you and the cousin. Or I was born in the wrong family at the wrong time, right? Like, I don't belong here. But then we go to the daytimer, and it's just like we see her personality come out, and we see him look at his sister as like, oh no, you are a teenager. You also have these experience or want to have these experiences that I yearn for, but we can't in our home. So you do it in this daytimer, whereas I do it through the medium of writing, right? And especially the scene or like the line that when she comes out and he's like, Shaisa, you're a Pakistani Madonna. I love it.
So good.
That was delivered so perfectly.
You're 100% like it's so interesting to me that I mean, I get it. I totally feel you that like, I mean, this is my first time watching it and I just thought like, there's just they did some phenomenal stuff with cinematography, with storytelling in this film. There's a lot of great things to love in this film, but I do think that like there's something about that scene, and I think, like I said, there in another time or if some other studio, they could have easily they could easily make another version of this, of like, but focus on like her, the sister,
yeah, on the sister,
or even like. Like same, maybe it's her, Shaisa as a mother dealing with her own daughter and her own daughter doing the same thing. Anyways, I'm just saying, like, it was wonderful to see, have Jay look at his sister and realize that like, we're not that different.
We're not that different.
And every Asian person here, Pakistani, Indian, or whatever, that they are dealing with the same stuff that he's dealing with, but they found this is a medium that they've come together as a group to express themselves. Let's jump into the boss and into Jay and like how that's impacted all of it.
I brought this up in our show notes about how can music be a tool for self-expression and finding one's identity, right? And this movie does that. So we both did band and jazz and whatnot growing up, and I think for both of us, like that really shaped
Oh, absolutely, bro.
us in so many ways, right?
Yes.
In the arts, in our love for just like music in general. But I was definitely that kid in high school or in junior high and high school who was not listening to like modern day music, and I was listening to like the classics, the 60s, 70s, 80s rock. I went through a massive phase, mainly because my brother influenced me on Rage Against the Machine.
It's great, man.
And that's all I would listen. The scene where he finally like gets a shirt and he cuts it off, right, to look more like Bruce. I was that kid who like would sneak into his older brother's closet and pull out that Rage Against the Machine shirt and wear it, and with some big political statement, not really understanding it myself, but I just thought I was so cool because no one else was listening to Rage at that time. I was, right?
I'm cool.
I'm cool.
I'm Marcel. Listen to Rage Against the Machine.
But I love this idea of like music. How can music be a tool for self-expression, and how can we leverage it to find our own identity? Or how has it helped you?
Right. I think, because
the movie does this really well for Jay, right?
Yeah.
He's introduced to Bruce, and his classmate says Bruce is the direct line between what does he say? Between us and everything that's wrong with the world.
Oh, that's right.
Right? And then Jay says, what does he know about me?
Yeah.
A Pakistani boy
In Luton.
in Luton.
Is it Luton or Luton?
Luton?
Luton? Luton?
Luton?
Whatever. We'll go with whatever we call it.
Yeah. And so like he's like, what does this guy from the 60s know about, from Jersey, know about my experience, right? But as he digs into the lyrics and then to the music, he finds that identity. Have you ever had an experience like that?
Ooh, that's a really great question. I don't know if I've necessarily had it be discovered via music, like a specific artist or words directly, but music as a whole.
Yeah.
I think for Jay, like what I found really interesting about Jay is that like Jay was a writer first, and every artist, every musician is at heart a writer that wants to like help amplify that story, that whatever with music, right? And for me, like I think I grew up Michael Jackson, the Beatles, didn't really listen to a lot of rock, a lot of banda, a lot of like ranchero, like, or what's one of the Mexican artists' name? A lot of Mexican artists that like I can never remember their names, but like you put it on, and I'm like, oh yes.
Oh yes.
I remember driving to California, having to listen to this music and it be there, right? But as I got into marching band and there was something about marching band and doing wind ensemble and jazz band that I think for me personally gave me the sense of like, in marching band they often talked about like you're only as good as your weakest player.
Yeah.
Okay. Because in marching band you had to not only play, but you had to know your like sequences for what was the next move to the next move within the music, and be on the right, left and right, on the right foot. You had to know your music, right? So there's a lot of things that could go wrong. But like for me, that stuff made me realize that I was part of something bigger.
Okay.
That made me connect and feel that passion for the fact that like as I listen to this, as we hear that I'm not the only one that likes this song, or like that collectively we become passionate about it. And I love the scene in the movie where Jay and his good friend Rude, right?
Yes, Roop,
who is Indian, Punjabi? No,
he's Sikh.
Sikh, yes. So he's Sikh, and him sharing that, but then having this moment of like racism by these three white dudes that are the same age, treating them like crap, and them coming together to sing a Bruce song. That collective feeling, I've felt that in different ways, but I know what that feeling is of like you start to sing something or you start to like the idea of what this is comes together and you're just like you just feel an overwhelming emotion of like excitement, of joy, of confidence, of all these things that come together because you're singing out loud with other people.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. I love that you bring that up. So the director, Gurinder, she mentioned that scene, she wrote out dialogue for them going and standing up to the bullies there in that cafeteria, right? And she's like, it was like a paragraph of two of them like finding the strength and finding the words and just telling these guys off.
Yeah.
She's like, but I changed that because there's a power in using lyrics and not just using, but of in this case too, but a community coming together with lyrics and finding that strength.
Dude, so like, yeah, it's that's what it is, right?
Yeah.
I remember like I can't tell you how many times we were in, getting ready to go to a competition for band in high school. And we were like the first year I did marching band. Mm-hmm. I think this might be the one that vividly sticks out to me because it was my first year marching band. Marching band technically was for high school kids.
Yeah.
But I was in 8th grade. I took 1 year of band class, heard that I could be in marching band. And my mom was like, okay, if you want to, if you're going to commit to it. And I'm like, okay. And I did. I did the whole summer thing. I was an 8th grader with a whole bunch of these high school kids. They called me little man because like you would see you would see all the marching band, and then also you see this little trombone player just completely dip. But we did Wicked, and okay. I remember singing that some person started singing like a little bit or like humming or doing the lyrics or the music to what we were playing. And then they would start singing. It was collective, just energy and excitement and passion and understanding and realizing that like, we're going to do a great job here. And it's like, again, it's just that empowerment of like confidence that I think, I don't feel like you can find in sports. Because, like, when you think of coming of age movies, you often think of a sport movie or some other, like, high school, like,
sure, yeah,
some sort of thing. Mm-hmm. This is not the and to me, like, the fact they had music, because it's like music can really determine how an individual or who the individual is and the time period you listen to it. Can have a huge impact on like how that influences you.
Yeah.
If you're really listening, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't know that scene, that feeling, not only for that scene, but like for Jay, like when he first listens to Bruce, he has an argument with his dad and he's like upset with everything, right? And he puts that music on and there's like a hurricane warning or storm warning, whatever. Yeah. And he like goes out.
Let's talk about that scene.
Yes.
So yeah, he gets into an argument. He goes out of his way and throws away all his poems, everything he's written. He throws it away.
Prose.
Yeah, and he goes back inside, and he comes across the tape, Bruce Springsteen tape, and he puts it on, and it's "Dancing in the Dark."
Yeah,
such a great song. Anyways, and so he has this, and it's resonating. It hits with him. He goes outside, and everything that Bruce again is expressing and talking about these hardships in life, the unfairness, and this feeling of inadequacy in this song, and that you can't start a fire without a spark, right?
Yeah.
And it powers him and it invigorates Jay, and he goes outside. But I kind of want to talk about like how it was shot, right? Because Gurinder decides to show like scenes or shows the lyrics pop up on the screen.
Yeah.
And then at one point he goes over to like the garage.
Yeah, like storage
units. And then there's a projector that's just projecting the lyrics. This scene borders being like cheesy. But it's not.
Yeah. You know, it's funny you say that because when you were saying that earlier in the pod that you were like, this is like cheesy or cliche or whatever.
Yeah.
And I was like, is it?
I think the cliche comes in like the way like I knew that he and his dad were gonna get into some kind of like
a cliche coming of age. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. There was gonna be like a fallout between them, and then something was gonna happen to bring them back together, and they were gonna see eye to eye and be like, "Yes, I support you 100%." Right? Like it's cliche in that aspect.
Okay.
Right. Okay. But that scene though, like it's borderline. It can be cheesy because it's like you have like lyrics coming up, right?
Well, because like, yeah, it's a movie, and then you're like, wait, am I in a music video?
Yeah, and like he's outside and the wind is blowing, right? So like his shirt's like flowing in the air. And so like it's a borderline cheesy music video, but to me it never reached that line.
I would agree. I think the reason why is because there is something to be said about the first time you hear a song that you resonate with, that you're like, whoa, I gotta listen to that again.
Yeah.
And I loved the projection mapping on the home as he's outside, and finding his own spark and like coming to a term of having the spark take hold as he's listening to these lyrics.
Yeah.
That's what I feel like is happening. It's like they're visually adding an experience and having us, into a degree, guiding us to try to help us feel the experience with Jay.
And talk to me, and maybe you can talk to this a bit better, but like the framing in that scene, right? It's
so
here's a shot right here, here of what the scene looks like, right? There's storage units. He's standing right in the middle, right? And on both sides you have the projectors coming. Why choose to frame the shot like that? Like, I guess for me, as an amateur, have never filmed anything before, right? That's a lie. You filmed some stuff for our video.
I'd
be the director who would have him kind of like walking back and forth. The way that I would have probably depicted this scene is you're experiencing all these feelings, these emotions that are resonating, connecting through these lyrics. And I want you to kind of not necessarily pace back and forth, but I want you to like
dance,
to maybe dance a little, or have this emotion in you. Not dance. See, I would have made it cheesy.
You feel like that because I feel like he's grooving.
He's grooving, but I probably would have done it like up against like a wall that doesn't have so much clutter. Yeah, that's what it is.
So I think part of it. I bet you anything's part of it's like the location they had available.
Yeah.
So there's that. To me, I think that, again, I think this is a location they could do that they could probably throw up on there. I also think that part of it is like, the boss is a working class, like he talks about working class ideas, and so you throw it on some, like, if you did some sort of more tailored to there, then it does become a music video, then it does become, or a lyric video. Not that was some, to that effect, but it, and it takes you away from Jay. We're we're finding the depiction, a visual representation of what Jay's feeling on the inside, right? And I think that, I think that that's what makes it not cheesy. Because if you did do it not with like projected mapping and some of these text words coming on, it would be a little bit more
music video
or cheesy or
yeah.
But for whatever reason, like in the edit when they put it together, or even if they were like scripted it this way, I think it's beautiful. Like it does like it helps you connect.
It does.
If you've never liked Bruce, I think that this movie would make you actually want to listen to Bruce.
Did it make you want to listen to Bruce?
I wanted to listen to Bruce after our road trip, but then watching this movie, it really made me want to like listen more to Bruce.
Yeah, I think you said it perfectly. I think, and maybe this is the lesson as a filmmaker, like leveraging in this case using a real projector and projecting it up against the wall. Like, what a great way to like frame your character and frame the shot, because it has the lighting, and at times it was two projectors on each side of him, and like frame him. But it's also an invitation. It's not necessarily breaking the fourth wall, but it's an invitation to the viewers to listen to these lyrics.
Yeah,
listen to why this is having an impact on Jay, not just by having the lyrics come up and pop on screen, but like by projecting them. Mm-hmm. And it is encircling him and it's taking over him, just as it's taking over this shot, right? I love that scene.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. I think, well, and it's a wonderful start to the start of Jay's journey. Mm-hmm. For him to discover himself. I mean, he throughout the film we're dealing with your family immigrant status. You're dealing with racism, like we've talked about. You're dealing with like cultural expectations, like his friend. When you get you with a girl, oh, I have a friend. She's not fussy.
Great.
So good. And him, this as well as like finding new friends that like introduce you to things and all these sort of things. The one I do think that like I felt was really the two themes that I felt like did a really good job in playing out was finding the voice, obviously. And Haley Atwell, who I obviously missed, who is amazing. I mean, I loved it. I mean, again, we need more Haley Atwell.
We do need more Haley Atwell.
Again, in this film, I'm like, I can't believe I didn't like connect it, but she does. She like pushes Jay.
Yeah.
Not only pushes it, but she's like, look, I submitted some of your stuff because like you're not gonna like. Obviously, she understood who this individual was, mm-hmm. right? And having that external push with this internal discovery, with the connection that he has with Roop, really is it plays out really nicely. And again, it comes back to the fact that like I think to me he kind of solidifies a lot of his understanding for what he wants when he goes to that day day tripper? No.
The daytime.
The club with his sister.
Daytimer.
The daytimers, right? And it's really awesome. And more importantly, I absolutely love that Jay and Jay's dad, or Jay's mother, calls out the dad.
Yeah.
For looking at it in not the same eyes that he did, right? You came here to change something different.
Did you also not rebel against your dad, right?
Yeah.
To leave Pakistan and come here. It's a great way to like, again, not villainize the dad, but to bring him down and to make him, for us to see his perspective, for us to kind of not side, but understand him, and also see why he is the way that he is, but give him an opportunity to grow and change and make, as a character, make decisions that will see his growth.
I mean, I think as an immigrant son, I think that this could be a totally different movie for my mom or for my dad. You know, looking at it and maybe seeing themselves in the parents a little bit, and like maybe seeing something like, and maybe hopefully maybe whatever family that might, because like there's the whole scene where the dad's like, if you leave, you know,
I'll never forgive you, right?
Yeah. I'll never forgive you. Don't come back.
That's what the mom says to the dad. But like before that, he's like, if you leave, don't come back or whatever, right? Yeah. Like you're leaving and you're gonna be an adult, right? But there are people out there that have left and then never spoken to their parents again. Yeah. Right? Like there are homes that throughout all history and forever will be that situation like this happen. Whether you're an immigrant or not, right? Like you make a decision, your parents say, then don't come back. Don't come back. I hope this film finds those individuals on both ends and that they can maybe work through some of those feelings and feel like maybe I was wrong. And that's why I think this movie is just an all around like feel good movie, because it addresses, to the immigrant, but I don't think it's not. Yeah, it resonated with me because I've seen a lot of these hardships, or I've seen a lot of these experiences, right? Shared experiences, but also for non-immigrants, for just a family, or for an individual, for someone who's wanting to find their own voice with their own identity, for a parent who at times may feel inadequate, right? It has such universal themes that it makes, which is why I love this movie.
Yes.
That even though it's a little bit cliche, it just hits so well.
Yeah.
And I think talking about the legacy of this movie, it's unfortunate that it didn't do as well box office wise as maybe what the studio had wanted. But I think this is just a total
winner. Absolutely. If you haven't seen this, like, go watch it. The performances are phenomenal. I think the idea that like this is, I mean, we didn't even talk about it, but like Jay's eventual kind of girlfriend,
Emma,
I think, yeah. You know, she's going through some sort of thing with her parents and like rebelling and trying and seeing that they're racist and like culturally ignorant, but mostly racist. Yeah. And the whole, just so great. I'm so glad that I watched this for this podcast, and I'm 100% when we're like, this would probably be the first movie to be like, oh man, I haven't seen a movie. You got any recommendation? Blinded by the Light.
You have no idea how many times I've told people to watch this, and like, I don't know. It's a phenomenal movie. If you, again, hopefully you paused if you hadn't seen this to this, pause the podcast, went and watched it, and have joined the conversation. But it's just a fun all around good movie. Any last thoughts, impressions on Blinded by the Light?
I want you to go first on this.
This movie will resonate with me for a long time. I think had this movie come out when I was a teenager, I would have just eaten it up. As an adult, I eat it up. But as a father, as someone who's now in the shoes of where his parents were when they migrated, and seeing the sacrifices and the hopes and dreams, it's a beautiful movie. And Bruce Springsteen, I'm one of those people who I struggle with lyrics. Like,
oh, dude,
like I hear a song on the radio, or not on the radio. Who listens to the radio? But I hear a song and I'm just like, oh, cool. And then like I'll start singing along, and my wife will be like, that's not what that's saying. I'm like, I don't care, but it makes sense, right? Like I'm not one to like dig deep into like lyrics.
Yeah.
But this movie changed that for me with Bruce Springsteen. And Bruce, the boss, he is just
killer.
His songs, just even though they were written 40 plus years ago, resonate
today.
To me, here in as an immigrant in the United States, as a father, they hit still to this day. Those are my thoughts. Your final thoughts on this movie?
My final thoughts. I think my final thoughts with this movie is that I love that it's a culmination of many arts brought together to craft a beautiful message that, like you said, will resonate for everybody if you take a moment to sit down and listen. I think one last thing that I had to say was that the neighbor, truly, not only the neighbor, but like that you know, the one NF, you know, poem that he wrote.
Oh yeah,
and has the neighbor come over was beautiful. I truly appreciated that. Like you're like, I don't know what this individual is, you know, you don't know, and then something happens and you find out that like they're on your side. Like, I don't want to say that, but that's the only way I could think of it. But like, that's what it is. To some degree, some immigrants have that feeling. You're always worried about like,
oh yeah,
what is someone saying or whatever.
I have to stay in my lane so that I don't
walk any boat.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I just like truly appreciated that. And like you said, I think that like this movie will forever be applicable. It's about a different time period in a different era. Yet anyone who listens to this, anyone who ends up, you know, like will connect to it, will be able to understand that journey, that story, that impact, and then with that, come to listen to Bruce, and you can carry that forward by, you know, listening to Bruce's music and be reminded of how this impacted another individual.
Yeah,
it's freaking awesome.
Great movie. Just incredible movie.
Thank you for putting this on the
I'm
docket.
glad you liked it, because
absolutely.
I was like, I want to watch it. I want to revisit it. I want to talk about it. And I was like, I hope Danny likes it. So
yeah, I was crying at the end. And he's like, "Are you crying?"
Did she watch it with you?
Yeah. She was crocheting, and I'm like, "Yes, I'm crying."
Yes.
Why are you not crying?
Oh, it's so good. It gets me teary-eyed every time.
Oh yeah. I will cry every single time I watch this. For
seriously.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, we hope you enjoyed today's episode. And again, we would love it if you could subscribe on whatever platform you get your podcast. And if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to leave a review. Again, it really helps us get discovered on the charts.
More importantly, what did you think of Blinded by the Light? Is there anything that you love that you want to share in the comments below? Follow us on social at Real Chums to join the conversation. Or email us at realchums.com. You can follow me on Twitter, Rubio_TV.
And I'm also on Twitter as Marstrosity, MARZTROSITY. Join us next week. We are beginning the spooky season of Halloween. Fair warning, we are not like horror fans, horror movie fans, but it is spooky time. So,
and if this is part of the show, is watching movies that we're probably not gonna pick on the first try.
But by spooky, we're gonna ease our way into spookiness, because we're starting with M. Night Shyamalan's Signs. So
I recently saw a clip and I was like, oh, I'm so glad we're revisiting this.
This is one of those movies where like I remember where I saw it, my first time watching it, who I was watching it with. I just have very vivid memories of this movie.
Let us know what you have what your thoughts about this next week.
So make sure you revisit it, watch it again, because we're going to talk about it next week.
Later.
We'll see ya.